All right, so the Buffalo Bills, of course, coming off a big win against Washington and the Commanders. Do you take anything from the last game, Duffy? Do you take anything from the last game into this Miami game?
Yeah, I think the fact that this defense continues to dominate and they're just getting better every week. 9 sacks in a single game. And here's the thing. I know they'd given up 10 sacks in the 2 previous games, but Washington's offensive line, although they're moving it around, wasn't ranked terribly in the NFL. And it's the way that the Bills were getting to the quarterback. They have one of the lowest blitz percentages in the NFL and one of the highest pressure percentages, which means they're getting to the quarterback without sending extra people, which allows an already deep and dynamite defensive backfield to play somehow even better, which you saw with 4 interceptions from that same defense on top of the 9 sacks. Look, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I know it's going to be a immovable object versus unstoppable force game this weekend, but that gives me a lot of faith in what the Bills are doing, not only this Sunday, but moving forward.
Last week's game against Washington, do you take anything out of it? Washington's not that great, but boy, they faced a very dangerous Bills defense.
Yeah, Washington may not be that great, but their defensive line is stacked full of number 1 overall pick or first round picks, right? And again, you see now 2 weeks in a row, Spencer Brown playing exceptionally well against a formidable opponent. The offensive line as a whole, I think, was it 1 sack allowed?
1 pressure, no sacks.
1 pressure, 0 sacks. I mean, credit to the offensive line, which last year was a concern for Buffalo, and even week 1 was a bit of a concern. Granted, the Jets defense is looking to be fantastic, but nevertheless, I think that's what I take away the most. I know that Miami's defense isn't outstanding, but at the same time, I trust our offensive line against any defensive line in the league.
To the point he just made, going into the season, the Bills' offensive line was a massive question mark. Was Deion Dawkins pulling backwards? Could Spencer Brown be a legitimate starter? Osiris Torrance, the rookie, was he going to be able to fit in fine? Mitch Morse was the only rock solid. Right now, across several statistical margins, the Bills have the 3rd ranked passing offensive line in the NFL and a top 10 rushing offensive line.
One of their best players, Matt Milano, which I heard in the podcast, only had 1 tackle. Oh yeah, of course he was wearing the jersey for this week. So then let's take a springboard a little bit to next week's game, or this upcoming game on Sunday against Miami. Do you take the defense from the Buffalo Bills and then the offense for the Miami Dolphins? What kind of matchup do we have here on Sunday?
Look, I'll put it this way. Miami had a great, potent offense last season, and the Bills' defense matched up very well with it. I'll say something else. I know we're coming off of 70 points with the Dolphins, which, by the way, I know I sound like Bills fan. 3 teams could have scored 70 points last week. 2 of those teams decided, hey, we're going to take our starting quarterback out when the game was out of hand to preserve them, and those quarterbacks don't have histories of concussions. But I digress. They hung 24 on the Patriots, right? Fine. That's another legitimate NFL team. The Bills have allowed 2 touchdowns in 3 games. They have turned the ball over both fumble-wise and interception-wise in amounts this season that we haven't seen in years. I know the Dolphins are formidable. Holy crap, this defense is legitimate in Buffalo.
Your thoughts about Miami's game?
I think my thoughts about Miami's game is that, on paper, 70 points. I don't care who you're playing. This is the National Football League. That gives me caution right out of the gate. But to your point, I think that you have to look at who they're playing. And I think that the Dolphins have not come across any kind of defense up to this point like the Buffalo Bills defense. I love the matchup in general. But at the same time, I'm on the edge of my seat as a Bills fan because I don't know how it's going to shake out, and that gives me great caution.
I will say this. I think the 70 points was done on purpose as sort of a mind trick for the Bills game this week to try to prepare them for, hey, by the way, our offense, this isn't the same offense from last year. This isn't a backup or 3rd string quarterback. This is our number 1s going out all the way. I think it sent a message. I think he did it on purpose.
2 things. They beat Tua twice, and even when he was a starter last year, he was 8-5. Look, I'm not saying the guy's not talented. This idea that he's dominant and unstoppable, that fell off last year. Second, it's stupid to keep your starters in that long, not only due to injury risk, you're putting more formations and plays on tape. You're giving Sean McDermott the ability of the defensive staff to combat what you're trying to do. Look, you want to go ego, you want to pay back the Broncos because they didn't give you an interview 2 years ago when they had a head coaching position open 3 years ago, fine. But I think it's more negative than it is positive for Miami.